Ladies and gentlemen, Mollusk here, this time bringing you an army list idea. I should say here at the start that I don't really go looking on the internet to find the most super hard as nails lists that I can. Don't get me wrong, I'm open to cool ideas and I am more than happy to steal them away for myself if I come across them, but I don't go actively looking for them. I find it more fun to go through the book and see what I can discover for myself. So there's a fairly good chance that I'll put something up here that I think is great, but that you know is crap. If that's the case, feel free to let me know about it. It will save me 3 hours or so of having the teeth kicked down my throat. At other times, maybe you'll find me raving about something that's already common knowledge. In fact, that's probably almost certain to be the case, as I tend to go by the assumption that anything I think of, someone else has already discovered and been playing for years. And if I'm borrowing an idea, I'll try to give credit where credit's due, but otherwise it's entirely possible that I've just thought the same thing. So let's get started. This idea I'm calling the Wallgor build, and it's designed for a 2,500 point game. I think this particular list I'm showing you comes to about 2,498 points. Let's begin with the foundations. The Beastmen get quite a powerful magic phase, and I'm taking the Shard of the Herdstone and 3 Shaman to dance around it. The level 1 is running Shadow, because I can guarantee Miasma, which is a good spell with good range, and will allow him to be useful even when he's hanging back in my deployment zone. The level 2 is taking Beasts to ensure that my level 4 gets the spell he wants, and also the Chalice of Dark Rain, which is a goat's end if you face a lot of artillery and shooting like I normally do. And finally we have a level 4 with the Dispel Scroll. No protection, because I'm keeping him as cheap as possible, because if all goes to plan he's likely to suicide. He's running Beasts because there's a particular spell that I want. And no doubt you already know what the plan is. So, here's the concept. A character wall with Savage Beast of Horus cast on it. They're going to be sat in a bus of 30 gore, completely naked so as to be as cheap as possible, as their only job is to tank shooting and or hope to break the opponent's steadfast once they finally do make it into combat. We then have 5 Wargor to fill out the front rank. They're all equipped with heavy armour and shields, because their damage output is already quite fearsome, and it's durability they're going to need to carry the day. The first guy is the Battle Standard Bearer, and he's got the Manbane Standard. This gives a -1 modifier to enemy leadership within a 6-inch bubble of the banner, and the goal here is just to try to get the edge over stubborn or steadfast units. The next guy is rocking the Blackened Plate, which is heavy armour that gives the wearer a 2+ ward save against flaming attacks. More importantly, it gives the rest of the unit he's with 4+ ward save against flaming attacks. Eat your heart out, Dwarf Flame Cannons, Gyrocopters, Fire Mages and Banner of the Eternal Flame. Oh, and screw you too, Dragons and Hydras. Yeah, bring it, sir. The next hero has the Shrieking Blade. I've done this to get a magic weapon in the army, and it also synergises quite nicely with the Manbane Standard. The last Wargor is unupgraded, with magic at least, because I've already put too many points in this unit. The only other thing to note is that if things get sticky, I have the option of scattering up to 5 heroes all over the field, where they can chaff, combo charge with other units, or even just run around bigger, scary units that I don't think I can take, get behind their lines, and go after bunkers or artillery pieces. That kind of fun. So let's take a look at the stats. Unupgraded, this unit really isn't that impressive. Bear in mind that it comes to about 750 points. That's not great. I mean, for the same cost as the Wargor, I could probably have quite a sizable unit of Bestigor. But bear with me. If we put Wissen's Wild Form on this unit, it becomes somewhat comparable to some underfed Minotaurs. If we double tap Wissen's, which with our wizards wouldn't be too hard, it would start to get a bit of bite. If things get desperate, we could try putting Pan's Impenetrable Pelt, the bubble version, on them and turn the unit into quite a tar pit. But it's Savage Beast of Horus that we want. This means that we're getting 30 Strength 7 attacks that re-roll failed to hit rolls that are striking simultaneously with most things, bar elves. This is like a horde of Bestigor with the Beast Banner and ASF, except that it hits like this almost regardless of the casualties it's taken on the way in. Additionally, if it hasn't taken too many casualties, and bear in mind they could be in combat turn 2, they've got a reasonable chance of one-turning quite a lot of units they might potentially face. The last row shows what they'd look like if you managed to get all of the buffs off. It would never ever happen, but just imagine it. But a single unit does not an army make. And to support them we've got a horde of 29 Bestigor with full command and the standard of discipline. This combines with the Beast Lord to throw out a leadership 10 bubble, which will hopefully keep the goats in check. The Beast Lord himself is rocking the build that gives him a 1-up save, and extra attacks for every save he makes. But the key here is the Horn of the Great Hunt, which is a level 3 bound spell item that casts Bestial Surge from the Law of the Wild on every friendly unit within 36 inches. The effect is that every unit moves directly towards the nearest enemy d6 plus 1 inches. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it doesn't take that much to put you in charge range for turn 2. Combined with the Chalice of Dark Rain, it can really put the pressure on shooty armies, which tend to be the Beastmen's bane. To be honest, it's not a lot of Bestigor, and I feel a bit uncomfortable not running them at 40 strong, but they are, bar none, the best unit in the Beastmen army, and 30 can still pose a threat, especially when the list also has another strong hammer unit in the Wargor wall. Next we have another horde of 30 Gore, this time with full command and additional hand weapons. These guys are okay. You'd wish for 40, but you've got to work with the points limit. And to be honest, there's a limit to the number of Gore I can physically put on the table. Basically their job is just to soak up fire, stop the army getting outmaneuvered, and just generally hold the line. Now, what is a Beastman army without its chaff? We're taking 2 Tuskor chariots. And I'm not normally keen on these because I think they're a bit slow, but they fill out the cortex, they've got good leadership for Beastmen Chaff, and people seem to like to shoot at them, and that's just about good enough to qualify. Moving on, we have 3 solo Razorgor, and I love these things, fast and threatening. If you like harpies, more power to you, but I can't get them to work. So it's the Razorgor that are on movement blocking, anti-chaff, and anti-war machine duty. And that brings us on to the battle plan, if you'll excuse the crappy picture. Now of course deployment is hugely influenced by the mission, the terrain, and what you happen to run into, but I think it helps to have a basic idea of what you might do, and how you see the units working together. So basically we're going to whack the Herdstone up centre stage, and this will allow our shaman to contribute their spells as well as their power dice to the game. It does make them vulnerable to ambushers and fast flanking units like Dark Riders, but there's not really a lot you can do about that. And if I do see that my enemy's brought units like these, I'll probably drop the chariots back and they can play guard duty, and at least give the enemy something to think about. I'm thinking to push the Razorgor up the front. They should outdistance my main blocks quite quickly, but ideally stay just within the general's inspiring presence bubble, as they aren't the most courageous of beasts. They should be able to put the pressure on early, and maybe even provide some decent cover for the blocks behind them. As for the blocks themselves, they're arranged so that as much of the army as possible is in the re-rollable leadership 10 bubble, and hopefully I can move them up and wheel them in such a way as to avoid traffic jamming too hard. It's pretty flexible where I could put the shaman. I could have him in the blocks if there's likely to be scouts with bows, or other things that might snipe a lone model, but otherwise they could just start around the stone. What is important is that they look directly at the stone, as hexes, which is what most of the spells they will be carrying will be, don't need a line of sight to cast, and this will mean that when they get bestial surged with the rest of the army, they'll walk towards the stone rather than being dragged out into the midfield. The level 4's got a bit of a dangerous job, because he's got to be within 12 inches of all the Wallgor, and preferably my Beast Lord too, in the crucial turn we hit the enemy lines. To keep things simple, I'm thinking of putting him in with the Wallgor unit. It makes them even more of a fire magnet, but of all the units I've got, they're the best equipped to take it. This list could struggle against other armies with a strong magic phase, and with the one magic weapon, Ethereal Spam might give us some trouble. Strong scouting units would probably also be a nightmare, as we're very dependent on a strong magic phase, and I really don't want to see a large block of Killing Blow coming my way. It's obviously risky to bet the game on a single fickle magic phase, but whatever happens, I'm sure it'll be fun. But yeah, there's my Wallgor idea. Hopefully interesting, perhaps thought-provoking. If you have any thoughts, maybe strengths or weaknesses that I've missed, or maybe you've played something similar in the past, stick it down in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. But yeah, thanks for watching. Ciao.